What's going on, everybody? It's your boy C-Zar, and we are talking about Bitcoin Cash today. Shout out to the Dragon Riders in the House of the Dragon. We are going to talk about BCH versus BTC in this video at the request of Muhammad. Muhammad will do that for you, my friend. Hit that like button, you guys. Subscribe if you want to see more content like this. Let's get into it. Let's not waste any time at all. I want to try and keep this video brief. Here we are sitting at about $444. Not really moved at all over the past, over the past like 2 weeks, basically. Just moving sideways. Waiting on a move up. We've got some bullish divergence here on the daily time frame. The RSI is not in the best posturing right here, but I will say a rejection off the 40 once, twice, and you haven't gone to the oversold zone and you haven't made strides lower. It's like you have all the reasons to go lower, but you're just not doing it. Why aren't you? Right? Like literally, why aren't you? Volume's dying off. You're absolutely at the end of this consolidation phase. You're going to break out one way or another. I suspect it to be to the upside. What is this? Like on a 4-hour, it looks so ugly, but on a daily time frame, it almost looks like a roof pattern. Not an inverted roof, but like an actual roof pattern, right? With that triangular look. It's almost perfect. It's like if this long wick didn't happen, which maybe we shouldn't even consider the wick. That is a bottoming or sometimes a topping pattern, actually. Let's look real quick. Hold on. I said we were going to make this video short, but I guess not. The pattern site. Chart patterns. Go to R's. Elemento PQR. Oh, it's all the way up here. QRS. Roof. We're looking for roof. Roof. Yeah. It's a roof pattern. That's what it looks like to me, man. Price trend. Usually upward leading to the pattern. Well, this one was downward, right? This one was actually downward leading to the pattern. Maybe it's not a roof pattern. The best performing roofs appear in downtrends. Oh. But they will be rare. Well, that's phenomenal to know. Thank you, Thomas Bulkowski. Wait for confirmation. Let's see. Breakout can be in any direction. Downward predominates at 58% of the time. So about 60% of the time, they're likely to break to the downside. Okay. Sometimes you break out to the upside. Let's see. Tall patterns outperform short patterns. I mean, I don't know. I don't know. Is that tall? I mean, I don't know. It looks kind of short to me. I guess we can just do a measure move. I just want to see. Let's see. Hold on. Has horizontal in the air. Make sure it's not a head and shoulders. Okay, cool. If this is to be an inverted roof, or not an inverted roof, a plain old regular roof pattern. If it were to be a regular old roof pattern, basically that look there. Then when we break out of this downward sloping trend line, this line right here, we break out of that, that's how we know that we're going to the upside. If we are going to the upside, the target move would essentially be all the way up to about $500. So that's not a lot. Based off of the measure move here, that'd be $500. But hey, man, $500 and move up to $500 could get us set up for something more from a high to a low. I mean, yeah, that breaks us up above our 382, which would really get us set up to actually move probably all the way up to 530 or 550. Again, the measure move of this thing would take us to 500. But you don't have to stop there, right? Even the example that Thomas gives here, you break out, you get your measure move breakout here, but you continue on afterwards, right? This initial move was clearly your measure move breakout right here, but you continued moving upwards afterwards. I assume the same thing would probably happen with this, right? We'd make a move directly to about $500, previous areas of resistance, the next level up on this fibs. Yeah, we might consolidate, pull back to 470 or consolidate real tight around 500 and then make our next run up to this 530, 550 area or even beyond that, right? So I really do think Bitcoin Cash is going to move up here, you guys. I really do. I really like that we've rejected the 40 twice and we did not go lower. It's a little bit too early to say that for the second time because we've only closed one day so far to the red. So if today were to close red, we might actually get into that oversold and we might go lower. And in which case we would break out of this pattern to the downside. But I don't know, man. He says the best performing ones are the ones that come in downtrends, apparently. So this, that's what we're dealing with here. That could be really good. This guy, by the way, man, he's got more experience doing technical analysis than I've got experience living on this planet. So I definitely take his word for it. But right now, I feel like you would have gone lower, man. I'm going to stop repeating myself, but I feel like you would have gone lower if you wanted to go lower already. Let's look at BCH versus BTC and be done with this thing. I've given you guys the appropriate targets. You know what the game plan is. Nothing's changed, right? We move up. What's great, actually, hold on real quick before we move on to the BCH, BTC stuff. What's great about this is obviously this pattern has reached like full maturity. Maybe one more day is what we get, but maybe that's it, right? But essentially, if we break out to the upside like I would expect we do, if we get a breakout move like we saw here, which is rather immediate, right? You moved up pretty fast. Likely, Bitcoin Cash would close around, if not above, these highs, right? Somewhere up above this high, yet below $500 by the end of December. And if we get that end of December close, sorry. If we get that end of December close to happen around $500, or at least above that recent high there at like 480. I think even if we close above 460, we'd actually be good. But once we get that move, if it happens over the coming days, which I suspect it will, we would likely get a high enough close for December on Bitcoin Cash to get this monthly ribbon to officially cross to the upside, and that would just be a very good reason to get excited, right? So curious to see how this breaks out over the coming days, and I think that it would break out over the coming days. I want to look at the 4-hour real quick, and then we'll move on to the BTC chart. 4-hour time frame, looking bullish, yeah, looking very bullish. Looking nice and set up. You kind of actually have an inverse head and shoulders pattern on the 4-hour. I don't know. That wasn't the best right shoulder, but if this is your left shoulder, here's your head, this is your right shoulder, right? I don't know. But you're bouncing off the 40. That's really what's the nice thing, right? So hopefully we can not just bounce off the 40, but get up and above the 60. We want to get above this area here, above the 60. Promote some strength. I think you will. You look poised. This, with the look that you have now, I would suspect that today we start moving up. I don't know how high we'll close, but above 450, above 460, maybe even above 480, man, today. Like, it could happen today. Breaking out of this pattern today would be nice. That's for sure. Okay, let's look at the BCH BTC chart. BCH BTC on Coinbase, sure. Looking like it wants to move up as well. Yeah. Yeah, that 4 hours looking, this is actually looking a little bit more bullish on this 4-hour time frame. That actually looks even more like an inverse head and shoulders. But why? If it's an inverse head and shoulders, it would be at the bottom. So this, it's not, but still probably builds up, right? Anybody who's hearing that and they're like, inverse head and shoulders, how can you have chart patterns on the RSI? You can have chart patterns anywhere, man. This is a chart in itself. It's just a different type of chart, right? Held by different parameters. It's by the parameters of this chart, but yeah, it still works. You can apply TA to any kind of chart, man. You can apply TA to the mountain ranges, right? Whenever you start seeing the golden retracements with the 1272 extensions in the tree lines, in the patterns in the leaves, in the curvature of the river, right? Like stuff like that. Like you'll you'll see that you can indeed do technical analysis on more than just the price charts. You can definitely do it on the RSI charts. If I can apply TA to the mountain range, man, and I got the mountain range outside my window. You can do it. And maybe just with the naked eye, there's no actual like real way to measure that, right? But I probably sound crazy, or maybe I don't. I don't know. You either know what I'm talking about or you don't know what I'm talking about. But either way, at the expense of sounding like a crazy person, let's just move on. BCH BTC on a daily time frame looking very phenomenal. Weekly time frame also looking bullish. I think getting a green week here would be nice. That would solidify this bounce off the 40. That'd be a good look. Higher lows overall. Looking like potentially this next move up would get us above the 60, the area that we rejected, right? If we're expecting a higher high and a higher low scenario with this weekly RSI. If this is our higher low that we're bouncing from, then yes, we would see a higher high than this. If we were to top off somewhere above this, right? And if we were to get a higher high than that, likely it would be above the 60. We get above the 60, we're in the bullish area of control. And anytime we do that on any chart, that's normally a good thing. that would promote some serious growth in this chart. So I think right now, if we're looking at this just plain and simple, it seems as though we're in this kind of grand consolidation phase. We're clearly at the bottom of it. If we're in this consolidation zone at all, right, if this is to be considered a whole zone and we're at the base of it, would you be considering more that we move down right now? Are we more likely to move down a substantial amount or more likely to move up a substantial amount? I think it's just a matter of time before we do move up a substantial amount. We do have, again, higher lows here with lower lows in the price, which would technically be hidden bullish divergence. Volumes dying off as you're moving down, though I don't know how accurate that would be on this chart. Monthly time frame. It looks like an M, but this is what we call a busted M pattern, right? Because true M's and W's, this is what an M looks like, right? An M would be like this. You get a lower low. A W, same thing. You get the higher high. But a failed W is where that next it doesn't get that higher high, right? That next leg up, the second part of that W, it fails, and then you go lower, right? Then you bust your pattern, you go lower. Same thing with the M patterns. Whenever you do this, and you can't quite get lower than that, that's a failed M pattern, and you reverse and you go higher. And when I say you reverse, I don't just mean you reverse back up to where the highs of the M's were. You bust out of it to the upside, right? This looks like a failed M pattern to me, which if this moves at all, if it moves up to this area, likely just by this failed M look by itself, likely when you move up here, you would break through it. You'd go through it, right? Because this just, again, it's a failed M. So if it's a failed M, not only do you reverse, but you break through wherever the M was to begin with. So same thing with the W, right? If you were to fail your W, I would expect that you go lower. So why would it be any different here? All that to say, as we zoom out, as we look at Bitcoin Cash on a further out basis, it does seem to be more bullish. And I know that's kind of ironic because its overall long-term history is pretty bearish against Bitcoin. But what it's doing right now is very bullish for its entirety of its existence, right? It's been moving down, and you can see this nice, just like soft curve coming in here this cycle, right? If this wasn't BCH, if this was any chart in the world, it could be anything. And you're just looking at this, right? Unbiasedly, you don't know what it is, you're just looking at this. On a monthly basis, you see this. You can't tell me, looking at this, that you wouldn't expect some kind of significant retracement of this overall range. Like, genuinely. You couldn't tell, like this, with the way it looks, it seems like it's all but happened yet. Okay, so from a high to a low, a general, like a standard retracement at a minimum would be to the 382. At a maximum would be to the 886. I personally, I don't know about you guys, but I don't think we'll stop at the 382. And I definitely don't think we're going to hit the 886, at least not this cycle. So maybe somewhere in between. What are the next targets? Well, the next target would then be the 0.5 to the 786. Again, I still don't think we're going to get to the 786. So maybe we can move that down a little bit. I don't think we have to move it down as low as the 6.9, but there are targets in between the 6.9 and the 786. You know, right there at about 6.8%. I just put a line at the same area. Right here, it's a little bit higher than the 6.9, but right there at about 5.6%, you know, stuff like that. Definitely areas of significance, and you found support right here on the same area that you found resistance there. So, but I don't think you go that high. I would expect at least a 2.5% move, if not, or not move, 2.5% reading, if not higher, versus Bitcoin by the end of this cycle. And again, I think we can validate that by this busted M pattern. If it is busted, we'll know it's busted if and when we move up from here, right? If we move up like more than 50% of this retracement here, this little pullback, let's just see from a high to a low. If we pull back more than 0.00667 of a Bitcoin, if we can break above that line, we'll know that this is a busted M pattern, okay? And that we likely will be moving up higher. If we move up higher again, likely I would assume that we don't stop at the minimum target, the 382. I don't think that'll be our end of cycle high. I would think for Bitcoin Cash, a likely end of cycle high would be anything from about 2.5% to potentially the 618 here at about 4%. But it's possible we could go higher. But this personally, this is the zone that I would expect the most. If Bitcoin Cash, from its current price, were to do the true minimum, which would be 1.6%, and Bitcoin were to be at its all-time high price of $500,000 by the end of the cycle, which I think it'll be at 500,000 by the end of the cycle personally, then that would mean Bitcoin Cash is worth 5,000 by the end of the cycle, which is possible. I suppose it's possible. That's what this says here. Actually, that's 1.6%, so it would be worth like 7,000 something, right? Like 7,000. What would it be? 7,500 or 7,000 something. I don't know what it would be worth specifically. What would it be? It'd be over 7,500, but less than 8K maybe, or around 8K. Which is fine, you know, but that's kind of low end stuff. That's not my predictions. And then also just based off of this, that's the very like minimal kind of retracement. And it is very common on your first interaction with the 382 to go a little bit above it. A little bit above the 382 is this, you know, resistance point here on a monthly basis. You closed there. So that could be, you know, a nice area. And that's at like 1.8%. 1.8% of $5,000. You're getting closer to that $10,000 number, but that's still too low in my opinion. So that doesn't really make a whole lot of sense. If Bitcoin Cash were to be worth about 2.55, the next fib target there, 2.55%, then at a 500,000 price for Bitcoin Cash would be at, why am I drawing a blank here? That'd be about 12,500, right? 12,500. So that's a very somewhat likely target, right? And this to me would be a more likely minimum for Bitcoin Cash than the 382 personally. I accept this as a minimum target, but this to me is a more likely minimum, not even like a likely target, but just a likely minimum, okay? At a likely minimum, that's basically right around that 13K area for BCH. And if you guys remember where 13K comes from, that is our true minimum target for BCH of this cycle, right? If we look at the monthly time frame here, high to low, 13K right there, that's our minimum target. So BCH, BTC going to about 2.55% of a Bitcoin. If Bitcoin's worth about 500K, that would make sense, right? Because that would be our minimum target there. So we could see that sense being made out of that there. If we were to go to the 618, which we stand a good chance of doing, I would say, there's a lot of significance and price action going through here. You know, we could see something greater than the 618. Maybe we go right to it. I don't know. Let's say we go right to it. That'd be a 700, almost a 750% growth versus Bitcoin right now. So we'd outpace Bitcoin by 750% if we were to grow this much, right, for the rest of the cycle. That's what this chart would mean, right? But that'd be at about 4.1% of a Bitcoin. If Bitcoin was worth 500,000, so why do I keep drawing it blank? That'd be about a $20,000 Bitcoin Cash. So anything from like here and higher would be the likely area, right? Because we start getting above this like 5% area of a Bitcoin. 5% at 400,000 or 500,000 would be 25K. And I could see Bitcoin Cash getting to 25K, but much past that I'm having a hard time seeing in my personal expectations, in my personal belief. And that would be a 10x versus Bitcoin from here already. So that's pretty intense versus Bitcoin itself. But these areas here, this golden ratio zone, what I love about it, first off, is it's the golden ratio. Second off, we definitely have significance on the price action. We have closing highs here, closing highs there, which both line up with the top and the bottom of the zone itself, so significance there for sure. And then when we apply the percentage points to the price of what Bitcoin Cash would be if Bitcoin itself was worth 500K, those targets line up pretty well with our first and secondary targets for Bitcoin Cash. Now, if Bitcoin's not worth 500K, if it only sees 400K, if it only sees 200K, if it stops at 170K, this would definitely diminish the targets, not just for Bitcoin Cash, but for Bitcoin, for all of cryptos. So it's not the expectation, but anything could happen. But if everything goes according to plan the way that I think that it will, absolutely. Absolutely, this makes the most sense, guys. Going to the golden ratio, very standard thing to do, right? Almost always, whenever I see any kind of move and we're measuring a retracement, I automatically just associate the golden ratio with a primary target area. But sometimes you do stop at the 382, sometimes you stop before it happens, right? And I'm sure we do have stops along the way, right? It's not just going to be a straight line all the way up there. But in time, and I think by the end of the cycle, we will be up there. I got nothing else to say, man. I think I've said everything that I need to say, right? We could look at this chart. Let's look at this chart on the ribbon chart real quick. BCH, BTC on Binance right here. My goodness. It's abysmal. It is absolutely abysmal. Okay, so you know it's different though, right? And we could see it. not gonna do that. I'm just gonna show this. But what's different? Maybe we can actually. We can do it on this one. Yeah, on a weekly basis. If we look at this chart here, what's different about this cycle, for one, is that we've actually got higher lows instead of lower lows, right? We've got higher lows coming in here. For two, we've gotten above the green line here. Okay, we've actually gotten above the green line. We've closed above it, interacted with it more on a regular basis than we ever have in this thing's history, right? So I think that that's different, and that's encouraging for Bitcoin Cash. We look at BCH here, BTC on the ribbons, same kind of thing, right? On the monthly ribbon, you really didn't mess with this yellow line at all. In fact, as soon as you'd hit it, you would just reject it, or anywhere near it, you would just go lower. But now you're flirting with it. Now you're living in this. That tells me you want to go up. And oftentimes, whenever you want to go up into a ribbon, you do go at least through it, which that's nice. Because if you were to go at least through it, this area of resistance here, this previous area of support, that's at about 2.5%, which is one of the targets that we had laid out for BCH, right? That 2.5% area, that would be, oh man, we've got totally different targets now based on this one, don't we? Based off this fib here. I mean, hey man, that would be more suggestive that Bitcoin Cash goes higher than 20K technically at that 618 area there. This fib might be more. Damn, it's because I did it on Coinbase, huh? It doesn't have. That's my fault, guys. I should have done it on Binance. Let's do it on Binance real quick. I was just about to end the video, but we've got new data and we have to do it right, man. High to low. Yeah, this is new, and this actually looks more respected, to be fair. So I like that. I actually like that, right? The case to be made here would be, again, that the 618, if we were to go to the 618, would be there. The minimum case would actually be 2.2 at the 382 there. I would think that we do go above the 382 by the end of the cycle. But the 0.5, we could stop there. That's around 4%. That is around 4%. And then 7% would be kind of the more expected target. So 7% of a Bitcoin at 500,000. Why am I drawing a blank again? It would be $35,000 for a Bitcoin Cash. But the thing is, Bitcoin itself, BTC, might top off a month before Bitcoin Cash does. Bitcoin Cash can top off after Bitcoin, like the rest of altcoins I think will. So maybe 7% of a Bitcoin at that point would be worth 20K, because it wouldn't be, Bitcoin wouldn't itself be at 500K. Maybe it's at 400K, or maybe it's at 450K or something like that, right? I don't know. But something certainly, I think, above 4%, or at least around there, if not above there, would be in the cards by this fibs definition. Because again, I don't expect that you stop at the 0.5. I definitely don't expect that you stop at the 382. And then based on a price perspective, there's a lot of congruence, a lot of things, a lot of reasons to agree with going at least above the 0.5. And then if we're at above a 4% price for BCH, as long as Bitcoin gets to 500K by the end of the cycle, Bitcoin Cash will likely see prices above 20K by the end of the cycle as well. So now that we've gotten to that, let's get back to this. Okay, so the whole reason I got distracted was because I was using this. I went to the Binance chart because it had more data for the ribbon, and I wanted to use the ribbon. To get above the ribbon, right, anytime that you're flirting with the ribbon like this, you often go just above it at least, if not through it, right? And to get above it right there, just above it would be the 382. So that would make sense to at least like maybe stall there. That might be our next kind of area that we consolidate at. I'm not saying that's the end of the cycle, but I'm just saying that that would make sense for a nice kind of area to consolidate at, maybe for a few months or so. Looking at this on a weekly basis. Come on now, here we go. Bearishly crossed. Not really that well respected though. Kind of more respected recently than throughout this whole time, but I don't really get good vibes off of this ribbon. And it's not because it's postured down, it just doesn't seem to be respected too well. We're not really getting anything off these dailies and weeklies. That's okay. But that's fine, man. I got nothing else to say, guys. If you like the video, hit that like button, subscribe if you want to see more content like this. If anything, the monthly ribbon's the one that's the most bullish, because what we're doing here suggests that we would go at least through the ribbon, okay, which would at least be good for a move. I mean, if we're at 0.00477% right now of a Bitcoin, actually, I'm sorry, we're technically at 0.477% of a Bitcoin, then we would at least see, you know, pretty substantial growth. What would that be? At least like a 300 to 500% growth versus Bitcoin, probably over the coming like next 6 months would be my guess. But that's it, guys. If you like the video, hit the like button, subscribe if you want to see more content like this. Shout out to the Dragon Riders, House of the Dragon. I like these more slow-paced videos where I'm kind of just figuring things out as I go. I hope you do too. So I'll see you on the next one. Take care, guys. Bye.